Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today I'm going to be talking about, well, 5 great reasons to be a retro gamer. I talk about retro gaming all the time. That's, primarily what my channel is based on. I do other things. I talk about other topics, but mostly retro gaming. And, it just kind of came to mind one day. I was sitting there jotting some notes and some ideas down. And I started thinking, what's a good reason to be a retro gamer? And so I came up with 5 reasons. Now I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't be a modern gamer, or that this is going to tell you why it's better to be a retro gamer. This is just good reasons why. Um, you know, Reasons why maybe I'm a retro gamer, maybe you're a retro gamer. Probably if you're on this channel, if you're watching me, you probably are one. But I know there's a lot of people that are both. There's people that get into both retro and modern. So, I just thought, let's just talk about it. Anyways, let's get to number 1. So the first one I want to talk about is cost. Now, of course, there's going to be a debate there of saying, well, there's a lot of newer games that are not so expensive. I go on the Nintendo store every once in a while on my Switch, and I see a ton of games that are like, $5 or whatever, and they're fairly new. But what I'm talking about is if you're a modern gamer, you're probably going to be into the latest stuff that comes out. And when that comes out, you're going to have to shell out some coin to get that game. And it was actually funny, a friend of mine on Twitter, he posted about the new Zelda game, the Tears of the Kingdom, which I think it's either out now or it's coming out any day now, very soon. But, he made a comment about, when the other game came out, Breath of the Wild, I was right in line and he bought it. And now this one's out and he's going to buy this one, and it's expensive. And I believe the cost of these games even went up by probably, I think, around $10. I remember buying Breath of the Wild for I think I paid $80 for it, $79.99 or something like that. And now they're like $89.99. So they went up. And still strikingly today, I see in the store that Breath of the Wild is still going for like $79. It's never come down. Now it's just Nintendo, obviously, and so probably some of their star games. You can't say that about all modern games. So anyways, what I'm actually getting to is retro gaming can be fairly cheap. And there's a lot of great games you can pick up for very little money. Especially if you like the older stuff. If you're into Atari, Keystone Capers is a really awesome game. It's like one of my go-to games for the Atari 2600, really fun. And this one usually gets, $5, $2.50. I mean, maybe some places might try and gouge you for 10, but on average, it's a fairly cheap game. Another one that I really like, Midnight Magic. These 2 games actually are the first games that I bought when I first bought an Atari Junior. I don't think these are the same one. Maybe this one is, but definitely not this one. I had to rebuy them, but as I'm getting at, they're cheap. You usually buy these in a lot of games. Like you go on eBay, you can buy a lot of games, or you can go to a flea market and they're like 10 games for X amount of dollars. So yeah, cost is a big thing, and even Nintendo, you can get a lot of the greats like Super Mario 3. That's not going to run you a lot of money. Everybody has this one, Super Mario Brothers. Well, this is the Duck Hunt one, but classic game. Everybody loves Super Mario Brothers. Even some of the other ones like Link, Zelda, the Zelda series. Maybe, some stores might try and sell it for like $40, $50. It depends where you find them, but still not too expensive. Another one that's a great one is Simon's Quest that I like. This is a classic. A lot of people play it. So anyways, that's the first one there. Number 2. No expensive add-ons. You don't have that, what is it, DLC or something? You don't have to pay. Because I've noticed there's a lot of games where it's free to download, but then you got to keep paying and paying and paying. A lot of these modern games, especially the phone games, all they want is for you to give them money. They want to, okay, you played the game this far, now start giving us money for add-ons and this and this. I also see it as a reason to make a terrible game and then just fix it later on, sell it, and then just make the patches and then all that stuff, and try and improve it, and then all that kind of stuff. So you don't get that with retro games. Most of them are on cartridge, some of them are on CD, and what they sold was what you got, and that's the game, and that's all you ever have. You don't have to worry about, you know, all that stuff, backing up the extras stuff that you pay money on, you know, tying it to a machine, specific machines and all that kind of stuff. Now, mind you, I mean, there is a negative side to it. Some games were made and they were kind of broken. Like Impossible Mission for the Atari 7800, you can't complete it, at least the North American version anyways. There's a bug in there, so you can't complete it. So, I mean, that cartridge exists, you could buy it, but you just can't complete the game. I heard the PAL version, the overseas version, you can. Plus there was a hacked version that was sold, a homebrew hack style game that you can actually buy that, called Possible Mission. So, you know, that happened. But I was thinking in most cases, the games you bought were yours, and they will always be yours. Especially with streaming now, they want to get into a point of downloading games, and you don't really own the game. It's like, you know, you own it for a period of time. Like, that's scary to me. Anyway, I've talked about that in a previous video. Number 3. I like the simplicity of the older games. I like how the graphics weren't the main focus. To some degree, even the storyline wasn't the main focus. It was more or less the fun of the game. And you could argue that maybe they were harder. Maybe the older games, like playing games like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and Q*bert, the original arcade versions, are not that fun off the get-go because they are very hard. But if you get into some of their counterparts onto the consoles, they're not as bad. When you play Donkey Kong on a Nintendo or on the Atari or on a television, it's not as difficult as when you played it in the arcade. But the games themselves, I mean, a lot of them very easy to pick up. You don't need a manual. You don't need to read. Like, yeah, sure, there's some games where I recommend you have a manual, like E.T. for the Atari, but for the Atari 2600, that is. But most of the time, you can pick up and play these games, and that's how I did it back in the day. I mean, most of the games I had, I didn't have manuals for them. I played a ton of games on my Commodore 64, and I didn't have a single manual for majority of those games. And I just picked it up. It was easy. Now, modern games, obviously, they can put text in there. I've seen like games like that where there's a lot of, they throw in text boxes to show you how to play the game, and then you got this pop-up box everywhere to say, you do this, you press this button to do that, you do this, you go here. You know, and that can get confusing for people like me anyways. I mean, the younger crowd, maybe they're attuned to those and they're good. But, you know, I found like when I first started playing the Zelda game Breath of the Wild, I was okay for a little bit, but then I got completely lost. I couldn't remember all the commands, the controls. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. The world was too big for me. It was all three-dimensional. And I thought, you know, I missed the simplicity of the original Zelda game. The original, you know, this one that I showed. Like, that, well, this is part 2, but you get what I'm saying. I find that the simplicity for the retro games is what I liked about them. Another one, number 4. Emulation is a thing. Now, you can argue that that's, you know, there's problems with emulation, and I know a lot of people might have an issue with it. But I'm always for it. I always use emulation. Most of the games I emulate, I own them anyways. It's just more for convenience. And I've shown things like this before a couple of times. You know, you got these machines that they sell. You got all the games on there, all these great games. This one actually allows you to use an SD card to add even more games. And so there's a lot of these systems that, you know, not just downloading an emulator and downloading ROMs, but actually buying these emulation systems, and they're very cheap. Like, there's a lot of these emulator boxes you can buy that have like hundreds of games, and that might be enough to tickle that itch of wanting to play these you know, retro gaming. It kind of ties into my first point there about cost. You know, a lot of people are right now, I'm seeing on YouTube, they're selling off their collection and then they're just buying an emulator device. And it's like, well, this device plays like 1,000 games. I'll never get around to playing majority of them. But it's enough to get them going and playing video games. So, number 5, and this is what I think is the more near and dear thing about staying with retro games and playing them is the collecting and the hunting and the nostalgia. All kind of weaving together. I love the hunt of going into a flea market and seeing if I could find a booth that sells old games, going through their old Atari games, their old Intellivision, Nintendo, ColecoVision, whatever I can find, going to some of those video game shows, seeing what they have out there, finding games that you either forgot they existed or you didn't even know they existed. A prime point, this one. I bought this one at a video game show a couple of years ago, and I didn't even know there was a Ghostbusters for the Sega Master System. And I was like, cool, I want that, because I love the game on the Commodore 64. I did since I was a kid. I still love playing it. And there's an Atari 2600 version of it that I learned about and got a copy of. But this was, cool finding this at a show for the Sega Master System. I still haven't even done a video on it or really tried it, but, I bought it and it's been sitting in my collection, and it's one of those things I have to get around to. But also, the thrill of the hunt and finding these things and the memories that are attached to them. When you find these games that you played, like I said, finding Keystone Capers again, when I have fond memories of when I first got my Atari Junior and was able to play it. Or, playing with my friends. I remember playing Castlevania 2 all the time with my next door neighbor. And we were desperately trying to figure it out. So there's lots of great memories that comes with it. So, I kind of mashed those two together, the thrill of the hunt and the nostalgia. I could have easily broken that up into the number 6. But I just find that's, it's part of the fun, the thrill, the excitement of being a retro gamer. Anyways, those are my 5 great reasons of being a retro gamer. Let me hear yours. I'd like to hear it. Throw it down in the comments below. Like I said, this isn't about trying to say you shouldn't be a modern gamer. This is just great points about being a retro gamer. Anyways, hope you liked the video. How many times did I say retro gamer in this video? I wonder. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.